Hi, I'm Teresa from Phoenix Gate Crafts, and today I want to review Audible. So, real quick note, not sponsored, but you've probably seen Audible sponsoring so many other people on YouTube before. You know, they like to sponsor just about anybody who has educational or reading-based content at some point or another, but ultimately, the way that this kind of relates to knitting or crochet is a lot of people in Facebook knitting or crochet groups inevitably ask, how do you read and craft at the same time? My answer, get a music stand. They're very handy. This one's foldable. You can fold it up, take it with you wherever you want to go. It has these handy dandy little things that are good for keeping pages flat and on here, especially if you're someplace performing where there's a wind. This is actually very good if you've got a pattern that you don't really have a place to put it next to you. You can always put a pattern on a music stand, like for serious. However, if you try this with a book, really good book, by the way. I like it a lot. But you'll notice that without breaking the spine, these are very hard to get to stay. Like, I mean, this is kind of flimsy. It's not going to keep it. So if you don't mind breaking the spine of your book, you could, you know, you see how much I'm struggling with this. This is not a great idea. And ultimately, it's a royal pain in the butt dealing with an actual book because, you know, you have to still stop, and whatever you've got going to hold the pages open, you're going to have to undo it to turn a page. Because, although, since books don't really work too well, there is another option. Ebooks. I have an iPad, but, you know, any tablet works. A lot of ebook apps are free, like Kindle or Nook apps are free. You just have to pay for the book, but you'd be doing that anyway. The problem with either method, though, is that you still have to turn the page. So either you have to stop what you're doing and swipe, or you have to completely dismantle your entire thing in order to turn a page. So those don't really work so well. That's where Audible comes in, because Audible is owned by Amazon. So if you hate Amazon, don't bother with Audible. But Audible is the premier source of audio entertainment. They have the first mover advantage in that they created the first easy access internet-based source of Audible books and Audible plays, henceforth known as titles, because I'm not saying all that every single time. How does Audible work? Well, this is a complex story because I've had my Audible subscription off and on since 2018. So I think the easiest way for me to explain this is to explain my history with Audible at the same time and how it's kind of developed into what it is now. And then I'm going to talk about the things that I don't like so much. And then I'm going to talk about alternative options to Audible. So the core basics of how Audible works is it's a subscription service. So it costs about $15 a month. I think it's technically like $14.99 or something, but it works out to $15 a month. And you get 1 credit. You also get a discount on any additional books that you want to purchase. So I think it's something like 15%. I'm not entirely sure. So remember, Audible is a subscription service where you are getting credits and discounts. You're not actually getting a subscription service to audiobooks. They're the end result, but you're actually paying for credits and discounts, not the books themselves. Now, you use the credits to purchase books. Like I said, they're good for any book at all. But what you're actually buying is the credit. And that credit is now worth the $15 for your monthly subscription. You can purchase additional credits. I think the deal is you get 3 credits for something like $35, which works out to around $11 per credit. So if you're only getting the subscription credit, it's worth it to purchase a book that's $15 or more. If you're buying additional credits, it is kind of worth it for a book that's $11 or more. Anything less than that, you might as well save your credit and just purchase the book, because it's not up to the value that you've already paid, if that makes any sense. This actually does save you a lot of money, since most audiobooks cost between $15 and $25. This is also kind of worthwhile because most audiobooks, not audio plays, but audiobooks, take between 8 and 25 hours to complete. And so you actually are getting, it's quite a lot of time that somebody spent reading a book and cutting it together into a seamless audio performance. They also have audio plays. So this is typically something that took the form of a play originally. So like all Shakespeare's plays are actually performed as fully casted plays. So these will take, the 2 to 3 hours that a Shakespeare play typically takes to perform on a stage. You're just getting a full audio rendition of it. So I do think that there is value in this, because if you were to sit there and read a book for 24 hours to somebody, that's quite an ordeal, and that's a lot to do. And then to have it professionally edited so it's pretty seamless most of the time, there's definite value to that. So in 2018, when I first got my Audible subscription, that's pretty much all you got was a credit and a discount. Then a few months in, they decided that they were going to make Audible originals. And the form this took at the time, which is different now, was that you got the option for 6 books and you got 2 of them for free. These ones typically were a little bit shorter. They were often an extra short story that an established author put out that was hopefully going to get you interested in their work, so you'd purchase one of their full-length books. They were also sometimes things that were in the public domain already that Audible had paid to have put to voice, so to speak. They were typically shorter, only about 3 or 4 hours in length. Still professionally done and well edited, but just not to the length of a typical full production. And they had a breadth of different genres. You'd have one for kids, you'd have one that was tragedy porn, you'd have one that was a romance. You might have one that was sci-fi or fantasy. You might have something superhero. You might have something that was just for entertainment, that was humorous. You might have something that was informative. Most of them weren't very good. They weren't something I would necessarily have paid money for. There was the occasional diamond in the rough, but most of the time I got my 2 free titles and then I never listened to them because I wasn't truly interested. They did that for several months though, like well over a year. Through 2019, that was primarily what they did. So through 2019, you got your credit. That hasn't gone away. That still works exactly the same way now. That is the core of their model. You pay $15, you get a credit, and then you get some free stuff. So by the end of 2019, they decided to add on some free healthy listens. They had some meditations, they had some relaxing nature sounds so you could go to sleep. They had some things you could listen to while you were working out, motivation, that kind of stuff. They did have a few where you could listen to them and it would guide you through an at-home workout, a few of those things. They really picked that up after the pandemic hit in March of 2020. But, you know, you had this list of things that were health oriented that you could listen to for free. And it was all really cool because all of these things, you know, anything that you purchase, any of the free items, you do download them. So basically, while you're attached to Wi-Fi, you can download your title and then you can listen to it on the go. So that was very handy if you were, you know, listening to something while you were jogging or while you were commuting. But, you know, the health stuff wasn't really, it wasn't anything new. It wasn't anything particularly high quality. Fitbit was doing something at the same time that had meditations and a mental training aspect to it. And I didn't particularly care for it, especially if you did try to use one of their nature sounds to try and lull yourself to sleep. At the end of every single title, they have this guy who says, you know, you could tell it's recorded in the 90s. He says, Audible hopes you enjoyed this production, and it's loud and jarring compared to all the quiet sounds you've been listening to, oftentimes woke you up. By about May 2020, the pandemic had hit, and I was being financially hit very hard. My business wasn't doing very well, so I had to cut $15 a month. Wasn't very good. Now, a few things that kind of contributed to how I ended. Now, those credits are rollover. So, you know, you get a credit with your subscription and they're good through the life of your subscription. Anything you purchase with a credit, you own that copy of. So it's just like if you purchased a book, also not sponsored, but very good book series. But if you purchased a book, you know, you still have it after you've purchased it. If you purchase your audio book, you still own it after you end your subscription. Because like I said, your subscription is for credits and discounts. It's not for the books themselves. So anything you spent credits on, you can still download and listen to after you've canceled your subscription. Now, there were some difficulties with the subscription at that time. You know, you could purchase books via the app. But if you wanted to do anything with your subscription, if you needed to return books or if you wanted to manage your subscriptions, it was very easy, but you had to do it from a computer. You couldn't do it via the app. So I never learned how to actually return a book, even though they said it was very easy to return titles that you didn't like. And I did wind up going to my computer and canceling my subscription. I wound up using my credits because I still don't know if you can use your credits after you've ended your subscription. So I made sure to just end at that time. You know, I used all my credits and then I canceled my subscription. One of the books that I purchased with one of my last credits was The Savior's Champion, which is the first book of a series written by the author Jenna Moreci, who has her own YouTube channel. I'm going to link it down below. Amazing dark fantasy. I loved this book. Very high death toll, just so as you know. Way better than Game of Thrones. I'm going to give you a heads up. I didn't like Game of Thrones, book or TV show. I gave them both a solid try. But not my thing. But I do like dark romantic fantasy, and this series is amazing. And it is very well done. Like, it is a high quality audiobook. The guy they get to do the reading, I believe his name is Nick. He portrays the spirit of Tobias, the main character, perfectly. If you like dark romantic fantasy that is really dark, high fantasy, alternate world, go do this. I mean, the first day of the challenge, there are several deaths. It is bloody, it is gruesome, and it's actually a fairly healthy romance considering the seriousness of the situation they're in. I buy into it, and I don't buy into a lot of romantic subplots. I don't like it very much. I'm very picky with books and romance. But this one is really, really good. I wound up listening to it during the summer of 2020. I listened to it twice. And during the fall of 2020, when Jenna Moreci released the companion novel, The Savior's Sister, I purchased the book because I didn't have Audible, I didn't get the audiobook. It wasn't released yet anyway. But I read the companion novel right away and I loved it. And I was debating because January or February 2021, I don't really remember, I think it was January, she released the audiobook for The Savior's Sister. So the companion novel now had an audiobook. And I was like, well, okay. I didn't really like Audible. I found out I'm very picky with my audiobooks. There wasn't a ton there that I absolutely loved and had to have. I'm a voracious reader, so, books work very well for me. They're cheaper. But then I heard a little snippet of the voice actress who does The Savior's Sister do my favorite character, Pippa. And she nailed Pippa, like the spirit of the character, the voice, it was a perfect match. And I was like, okay, I have to get it. So if you are starting or restarting an Audible subscription, definitely use a code from somebody from YouTube. I don't have one. Again, this is not sponsored. But, they like to start with a promotion. So you usually get 2 weeks for free with a free credit that you can use on any audiobook. And if you choose not to keep the subscription, you get to keep the audiobook. I restarted on an amazing deal that I don't think they do very often. They're not doing it now. But at that time, I got a whole month for free and I got 3 free credits. And you bet your ass I got The Savior's Sister for one of those free credits. And then I had discovered that the app had updated. So now you could do everything from the app. So you could do returns, you could cancel from the app. So I actually did some returns. So as you know, if you need to return a title, if you paid money for it or if you paid a credit for it, you will get that money or that credit back. That title has to have been purchased within the last year. And it has to be something that you did pay money for in one form or another. So either credit or actual money. Money will get put back on the card you have linked to the account and you'll get the credit back. So you can reuse the credit if you spent a credit on the title. So when all was said and done, I had 8 credits that I could use because I returned 5 titles that I didn't like. So that worked itself out eventually. The way it works now, you don't have an option of 6 titles and some random health listens. Now they have an entire Audible Originals library. So Audible took a whole bunch of titles that are in the public domain and they sponsored their recording. And you have a whole library of books now that you can listen to for free while you're subscribed. You also have a whole bunch of authors who are using that Audible's original to promote their work. So you have some of their titles available as well. Nothing mainstream, nothing modern that isn't a promotion. No big name authors are in the Audible's original collection, or at least very few are. But they have some really good voice casting choices. For example, Nick Offerman does all of the Mark Twain stuff. So there's that option. I have not checked that out. I've checked it out, but not a single thing really goes for me. And I've got issues with Nick Offerman doing Mark Twain. I'm going to talk about that at the end. But it's really interesting that they've really expanded the free selection. So if you like classic novels, if you like Shakespeare, if you like some lesser known authors or want to read some of the side works for some bigger name authors, that is definitely an option for you. Now, ultimately, is this worth it for $15 a month? Well, that is entirely up to you. And there is something that we need to discuss in determining if that value is worth it, and that is the voice acting. Because I realized I am very picky when it comes to voice acting. The voice actor really needs to fit with the narration tone and style of the book. Now, anything by Jenna Moreci that she has in audiobook form, it fits. It fits perfectly, in my opinion. Also, Anne Bishop gets amazing voice casting. I love it. It fits perfectly. I love Nick Offerman. He's dry, snarky, but he's not a particularly fast-paced actor. What he does works for him, but I don't think it matches the Mark Twain style, which is sharp and snappy. I was listening to A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, which is quite entertaining when I read it. But his style didn't fit very well, I didn't think. He does a good job. He's not fumbling over words or anything. But it just didn't jive to me. It was, the tone didn't work very well. And Tom Sawyer is a 10-year-old kid who's a little turd, and he's constantly running around doing things very fast. They're not just sitting there lazing. Slow descriptions aren't part of Mark Twain's style. So the dry, subtle humor that is Nick Offerman doesn't jive with the fast-paced writing style that I feel Mark Twain has. And I've had a few other issues with this. There's The Legends of Earthsea. I haven't read them yet. They are on my list, by Ursula K. Le Guin, I believe. I tried listening to the audiobook, and the guy who did it has this deep voice. It's very beautiful. And he has this speaking of legends of yore, slow, dramatic style of reading, and it takes forever. And the thing is, the main character, he's doing everything fast. He's always trying to jump ahead and do things faster than he should. And this is how he keeps getting into trouble. The long, majestic, slow style really did not jive at all. And I hated it. I mean, even listening to it on 1.5 or 2 times the speed didn't help. It just made it harder to understand. And this same guy does The Lord of the Rings, which the written style of Lord of the Rings is very different from the movies. It's not dark at all. It is a bunch of idiots talking to each other and doing a metric shit ton of singing. Okay, sorry if you really love The Lord of the Rings. I couldn't get into it. And a big chunk of it was because of this guy, having this slow, magnificent style of reading. And I think they should have gotten somebody with a lighter voice, more snappy reading style, would have made it go a lot faster and been a lot easier to sit and listen to. So I'm really nitpicky about that. And I feel that some books are just better to read, and the voice in your head is the correct one. It's really fun, though, when the author reads their own book. Like I listened to Michelle Obama's autobiography, and she read it, and the tone fit perfectly because she read her own work. And whenever that happens, most of the time that really works very well. And there's kind of a magic to it. So there's a book called The Black Klansman. They made it into a movie I still need to read. And the author read it. And it's a real life story of him duping the KKK in the 70s by talking to them over the phone. And he was a black guy basically doing a research mission on the KKK. It's an amazing listen. Totally listen to it. He is reading his own book. He does an amazing job. So there is that creates like almost magical reading experiences. Whenever the voice fits the narration, it's perfect. So you'll have to find your own books, and the only way to do that is to start listening to things. It's also a question of whether or not it fits your lifestyle. Like, I noticed that although I'm a voracious reader, I haven't been reading very much. I own my own business. I am going from client to client all day long, 5 or 6 days a week. And when I'm not doing that, I am catching up on household chores. I'm the primary cook in our house because I like it. I also do most of the housework because I know how I like it done, and I'm a bit of a control freak. I also have crafts that I do that are, if you're sitting and knitting and you can't really look up, audiobooks are a great way to go. So audiobooks really fit my lifestyle. You download the audiobook while you're connected to Wi-Fi, and then however you can listen to things through your phone. So if you've got a car where the radio connects to your phone, you can listen to it through your car radio. I have a hands-free cordless device that I stick around my neck, and then I can listen to things with one ear while I'm driving, or with 2 ears while I'm at home, so I can get the full audio effect. Now, is this your only option? No, it is not. Most books that are available on Audible are also available from your public library. All you have to do for free is get your library's app and load your library card onto it. Then you can borrow any audiobook or ebook as they become available. Now, there is a bit of a wait, and if that bothers you, Audible might be more for you. But if you don't mind the wait and you like not having to pay $15 a month, and you like supporting your public library, which is always a good thing, the library is a perfectly valid option. Anyway, I hope this helped you out. Happy crafting. Bye.